Hi everyone. Today I'm looking at topic 5 of supply chain management information systems. And topic 5 is about developing an e-procurement system. So we are not system developers, so we shall not develop a system at the end of the topic. But what we shall try to do is understand how a system is developed, the methodology or the method of developing a system. There are 4 basic methods you can use to develop a system. We shall look at them maybe together with the processes you follow. We are not interested in developing a system, but as an e-procurement or as a procurement professional, you need to know some of these things, because at the end of the day, you'll be expected to use the system. You cannot use a system that you do not know how it looks like, you do not know how it was developed. Of course, we have IT experts who will, system developers who will be able to develop the physical system. But now the methodology, the process, the advantages, the benefits, the differences between one method and the other are critical for us to be able to understand how you develop an e-procurement system. So we shall do the theory work here and let the development itself be done by the IT experts. So I shall take you through the methodologies for developing a system. And basically there are 4 methods. We shall look at them one by one to be able to see if you're using this method of developing, how do you go about it? So before we get there, of course, we shall look at the principles of developing an e-procurement system. For you to develop an e-procurement system, how should the system look like? Of course, there are several principles like transparency. A system should enable transparency. A system should enable integrity. A system should enable access. People can be able to access and should encourage competition. A system should bring into place the balance. Those are principles. A system should encourage participation. For example, if you are dealing with tendering, I can be able to send an invitation to suppliers or prospective suppliers. They should be able to participate and send their bids. So participation is a principle of developing a system. Efficiency, ease of use. Of course, a good system is that system which is easy to use, easy to go by, easy to understand. Of course, with training, because I have to be trained to use a certain system for me to use it. It is not automatic that because there is a system, I have to use it. So training is critical. A system should be able to manage risks, able to identify if there is a risk. A system should have the principle of accountability. You should hold everyone accountable at every stage. Everyone who is using the system, what information they acquire from it, there has to be some form of accountability. So we shall start there. Principles of developing an e-procurement system. Then we go to the steps or the process. If you want to develop an e-procurement system, how do you go about the process? Of course, there is a preliminary analysis, which is the step 1 of the process, whereby you first review, ask yourself, do we really need this system? And if we really need it, how will it help us? What changes will it make? You are doing a feasibility study to see how critical that system is supposed to be in your organization. That is step 1. Step 2, you come and do system analysis. You now analyze the real system. So step 2, you are looking at that system, stakeholders, how are they going to benefit from that system? You have not started developing the system, you're just analyzing. If we introduce this system now, the physical, you see the first stage was preliminary, where you just look at it overall. But now step 2, you have narrowed down to now analyze the system itself. Step 3, you go ahead and design the system. System design comes in this stage. And of course, in system design, you'll find there are system analysts, system developers, system designers. These are people who work on the system or who are able to design a particular system. Then step 4, it's programming. You do the coding of a system. So you put the system into place. That is now the real working of a system. After system design, of course, you come up with the real system. That is what we are calling programming. And then step 5, you test the system. All systems are usually tested to see if there are errors in the system, to see if there are potential threats of the system. What disadvantage or challenge can this system really bring? That is what we do in testing. And then after testing, you see, of course, here you'll find people like system testers, testing analyst, or a quality assurance officer, because they deal with quality of the system. Then we go to system implementation. You now put the system into practice. That is system implementation. You use the conversion strategies that we looked at before, because you have to now integrate or bring the system now on board. That is what we call system implementation. And of course, you have to maintain the system. System maintenance. You have to look at the system, look at any updates on the system, update the system. A system, if you leave it the way it was implemented, it will end up having loopholes for security issues. You may find the system is not working because there are softwares that are supposed to be updated which were not updated. All that should be part of maintenance. So that is a very important process that every organization should be able to focus on when they are dealing with system development. So this system development, of course, it falls under one of the methods of developing a system. And the major method of developing a system is this method we call the system development life cycle. It is the process we've been looking at. Because any system, for you to develop it, it has to go through those stages. So that is a stage, you can call it a process of developing a system. At the same time, it is a method of developing a system called the system development life cycle. So it is 2 in 1. So if someone is to ask you, explain the process of developing a system, you'll use the same process I've looked at. And if someone is to ask you to explain the method of developing a system called the system development life cycle, that is one and the same thing. So once you do that, you can go look at advantages of this type of structured way of developing a system. And of course, it comes with also disadvantages. Once you have that, there is a second method of developing a system called the rapid application development. Rapid application, if you don't really follow the structured format that we have looked at before, this one you can develop a system rapidly, just as the word suggests. You quickly build a working model of the software, and then you take it to the users to give you feedback. And then using that feedback, you come and update the working model. So there is a working model that is guiding you, and then take that working model to the users and tell them, I have a working model, I want to implement or to build a system from it. Then get their views, get their feedback, and then go back to the drawing board and update the working model. So it's still a method of building a system, but a more flexible one. Remember, the first one is a rigid one. You have to follow step 1, step 2, step 3, up to step 7. But this one, you go back to the users. You see this other one, the users come in place of testing, where you are testing the system. So it means you have developed the system, you've done a system analysis, you've done system design, you've programmed, so you come and test. That is where you bring the users on board. But with this second method, you keep on involving the users. That's why we call it the rapid application development. Very important. Then the third method is just here, the agile methods. Agile, these are flexible methods. Apart from the first method, these other methods are very flexible. By flexible, we mean you keep interacting with the users before you are able to come up with the entire system or the working system. So with agile methods, you will do what? You will keep it. It's called an incremental method. You do something small on the system, get feedback, go back to it. So each increment is released in a specified period of time called a time box. So here you are dealing with a time box. So you have come up with a time frame of maybe 3 months, and then you are saying in the first month, this is what we shall do. In the second, this is what we shall do. So you work with time boxes, but it's a very flexible way of still coming up with a system. And then the last method is the lean. Lean, now you develop a minimum viable product of a system, and then you keep taking it to the users for review, and then you receive the reviews in 2 ways. So these 3 methods, there is a very slight difference, but you try and find out. They are very flexible method. They involve the user and they involve feedback. You can be able to always go back to the beginning, to the drawing board, implement whatever the feedback is saying, and then take over. So the approach is what makes them slightly different. The approach, how you do the lean, may not be the same way you do the agile, but the idea is the same. You have to get feedback for you to continue with the system. So ensure you read through the 4 methodologies very well and get a clear distinction on how one is done and how the other is done. Sometimes you need to do a feasibility analysis. Is this particular system feasible? So if you are doing a feasibility analysis, there are areas you consider: economic feasibility, technical feasibility, operational feasibility, social feasibility, legal feasibility, time feasibility. You're just trying to find out, is it just okay for us to be able to introduce this system? Is it economically viable? Does it give us the economic sense to be able to introduce such a system? That is what we mean by feasibility. So look at feasibility in all those different aspects. And then we shall look at the e-procurement stakeholders. There are so many stakeholders in e-procurement, people who directly are affected by the system. The first stakeholder is the IT people. In IT, we have systems designers, we have system builders, we have system analysts. All those are stakeholders. Then we have other stakeholders who will use a system in one way or another. Procurement, the major stakeholder, apart from IT. Then we have buyers, we have accounts payable, auditors, finance, HR, legal people, security. All those are stakeholders in developing an e-procurement system. Then later on, we look at the role of procurement in making an e-procurement decision. You know, procurement, sometimes people can sit down and say, we don't come up with systems, so what is our role? They have a very big role to play. They are the ones who identify the requirements, they do a cost-benefit analysis, they do specifications, they do market surveys, they do sourcing. And remember, all these things that procurement does is part of the system. So they are supposed to be 100% involved in developing an e-procurement system, because all this information will at one time be portrayed in a system. So we shall look at the role of the role of procurement in developing an e-procurement system. And then finally, we look at the e-procurement infrastructure. Infrastructure includes things like hardware, software. For you to do an e-procurement system, or for you to develop an e-procurement system, you need the infrastructure, the hardware, the software, the network, and the people. Yeah. So those are the technological infrastructure. For any e-procurement software to be up and running, all those four things have to interrelate. You have hardware, things like computers, servers, data centers, switches, hubs and routers, etc. That is hardware. Software, you have EDI, ERP, operating systems, web servers, all those are software. We have the network enablement, internet connectivity, firewall, and security. And then we have people, the people we've just talked about, the IT people, system administrators, system developers, all those people ensure that a system is in place. So you see, by the time we are done, we've not developed any system, but at this point, you at least have an idea. If I want a system developed in procurement, then this is how I go about it. These are the methods we can use. This is the process we can be able to use. These are the stakeholders who are very much involved. This is the infrastructure that we need. And if you have that, then a system can be developed very easily. You just introduce the IT people and you tell them this is what we want, and they can be able to give you a system that is workable in your organization. So that is it for now.